Instead of just watching UFC Paris, why don't we cash some tickets on it? This is the official breakdown for UFC Paris Caio Borralho versus Nassourdine Imavov, brought to you by myself, Lucrative James. And you know what we do on these shows. Every single week I come here giving you banger bets, banger breakdowns, and banger analysis. 2025 has been crazy. We have been crushing it. On this very show, I gave you Khamzat Chimaev to beat Dricus du Plessis via decision. I don't know who's giving out bets like that. That was almost plus 600 odds, so I hope you guys listened to me and cashed out big. But we are in a new time now, and in this video, I'm gonna break down one of the best fights of the year that's not on a pay-per-view, and even the best fights of the year in general. Nassourdine Imavov is streaking in the UFC, and he is taking on another streaking contender, the fighting nerd's very own Caio Borralho. As I'm sitting here in front of you right now, I don't know if there's any gym better than the fighting nerds in MMA right now. And I don't know if there's any other fight that I'm more looking forward to breaking down and giving you some betting angles on. But we're not stopping there. We have Benoit Denis, BSD, taking on fighting nerds very own Mauricio Ruffy. A classic grappler versus striker matchup in what promises to be an absolute banger. We also got the returning Mason Jones taking on Bolaji. Okay, we got Paul Craig, the Bear Jew on the card, taking on the returning Modestas Bukauskas. So we got a lot in store, and I don't want to waste any more of your or my time because I want to speak about these fights. So let's run the intro. I'll see you on the other side. So welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. It's been a crazy ride in 2025. We've been making a lot of money, but most recently, over the last 4 to 6 weeks, I've been making a lot of connections and making a lot of memories. I've been traveling all over the USA. I went to UFC 319 in Chicago. I met my friends over at Full Violence, my good friend Pedro Crash. I was partying with Carlos Prates. That was a crazy night. Some things that I won't be saying online. Met my guy Martin. I gambled with Aileen Perez in the Bolaji. She won some money, I didn't. That's the way it goes. Been in the UFC Apex, been in the UFC Performance Institute multiple times, hanging out with my guy Charlie Campbell, Evan Elder, my man Chris Duncan, who set it off. Seeing him 2 days after his fight of the year contender, like, it's been a crazy time, guys. And the only reason any of that is possible is because of my analysis, because I make a lot of money betting on MMA, because I've made a lot of people a lot of money, but then also because of my content, and then most importantly, because of you guys. You know, if no one watched these shows, then I wouldn't have the connections I do with the fighters, because it comes from content, you know? So I just wanna show my gratitude. I wanna say thank you. And I wanna say I have been doing my best over the last 6 years. I've had this YouTube channel, and I will continue to do my best to put money in your pocket. So it's a mutual agreement. I'm in a very blessed position, and I just wanted to start this video off with some gratitude, say thank you to you, also to tell you that we're not stopping. The takeover has begun. The YouTube betting scene will be taken over. The YouTube MMA scene will be taken over. And in general, the MMA gambling scene will be taken over, and the bookies will be held at ransom with not one, but 2 guns. And I'm gonna take more money than I've ever taken over the last 10 years. And that's a hell of a lot of money, and it's hard to do, but we're gonna do it. So let's get straight into the breakdown. And the main event of the evening is Caio Borralho taking on Nassourdine Imavov. So Nassourdine Imavov coming into this fight with a record of 16 wins and 4 losses. Caio Borralho coming into this fight with a record of 17 wins and only 1 lone loss. Currently they have Caio Borralho as the favorite, minus 125 odds, with the underdog price tag on Nassourdine Imavov coming back at plus 105. Boy, oh boy, where do we start with this one? I mean, first thing I want to say that stands out to me, and I always like to tell you the first thing that stands out to me, is that Nassourdine Imavov is in his hometown, right? Nassourdine Imavov is French, and he's fighting in France. And a lot of people in the industry will say, and I hear this all the time, and I have heard it over the last 5 to 6 years since I've been online in the industry, and I hear everyone say, oh, you know, the fighter's fighting in his home country, that means the UFC want him to win. Or you hear this a lot, the UFC want this person to win. The UFC want Sage Northcutt to hold a title. They want Paige Van Zandt to win this fight. They're setting her up with Amanda Ribas, you know, whatever it may be. And I really push back on that, and I don't prescribe to that. And it's not to say that the UFC don't want fighters to win, because they most certainly do. But it is to say that most of the time it doesn't actually matter what the UFC want, because the matchup is the matchup, right? Yes, the UFC may want Paige VanZant to beat Amanda Ribas, but she's just not going to do it. She's probably going to get armbarred in a couple of minutes because Amanda's on such a higher level fighter than Paige VanZant. Now, we do see sometimes the UFC set their star fighters or potential star fighters up in easy matchups, right, or easier matchups, but then the odds are going to reflect that most of the time. And also, your tape study is going to notice that. You don't need to know that the UFC is setting anyone up. You can kind of see it yourself. Like when I taped Contender Series a couple of days ago, you know, I could see that a lot of those matchups were set up matchups, whether the UFC knew it or not. So just because Imavov is in his hometown here, I don't think it means much, to be honest, because the UFC puts contenders versus contenders all the time. Charles Johnson just fought Lona Kavanagh. Charles Johnson also fought Joshua Van. Lona Kavanagh fought Jose Ochoa. Like, that's just a couple of fights I mentioned off the top of my head. I mean, it happens all the time where the UFC doesn't really care who wins. They kind of just put in on a fight to see who wins so they know who to push, because it's kind of hard to know who's going to win, right? The UFC is not this crazy entity, and in this fight, it's definitely hard to know who's going to win, right? First thing I'll say is that Imavov is the clean striker here. He's the more clinical striker, and he's just better on the feet and more comfortable in general. But Caio Borralho is the much better grappler, right? He's a much higher level than Nassourdine Imavov on the ground, and in some sense, we have a striker versus grappler matchup. But if I said that, it would be very disrespectful to Imavov and Borralho, I don't know how you say his name, Caio, because these guys are full-fledged MMA fighters. They can do it all. And that's evident by going to watch Imavov's fight with Brendan Allen, where he's stuffing takedowns for the entire round 2 and round 3. It's evident by going to watch Imavov's fight with Edmund Shabazian, where he's doing big damage from top position and brutalizing him in the jiu-jitsu, in the grappling. And it's also evident from going to watch Caio Borralho's fight against Jared Cannonier, where he's standing in the pocket with him for 25 minutes, trading, knocking him down brutally in round 5, almost getting the knockout from a striking position. So these guys can do it all. I'll say that for sure, right? But they definitely have advantages and disadvantages in this matchup. If Imavov stays on the feet for 25 minutes, I feel like he's probably going to edge the fight, right? Is it impossible that Borralho could win a kickboxing fight? I don't think it's impossible, because there's a few things at play here, right? The threat of the takedown is massive. Now in MMA, you have the threat of a takedown. What that means is oftentimes the better striker can lose the striking because he's worried about a takedown. We see it in all of Khabib's fights. I mean, Khabib got the most damage on the feet in his fight against Conor McGregor, right? Khabib landed a knockdown. But why did he land a knockdown? Because he's a better striker? No. Because he had the threat of the takedown, right? So McGregor was worried about the takedown and he got caught with an overhand. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Borralho lands some big shots here. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that, you know, Caio lands a great 1-2, good southpaw 1-2 that he has, great knees up the middle, good elbows in close. I mean, Borralho has like a wide skill set and toolbox on the feet for sure. I've seen him throw multiple different strikes, right? Not only kicks, not only knees, not only elbows, not only punches. I mean, the guy's thrown everything. I've seen the guy throw spinning attacks before, just as I have seen Imavov show some good grappling chops, as I mentioned. Something I want to say here, guys, is that we have a mutual opponent. So both of these guys have fought Jared Cannonier, and I really like when that happens in MMA betting and for my analysis, because I can see how both fighters fought against the same opponent. And when you do that, you can really tell where their skill sets lie. So when I go and look at Imavov versus Jared Cannonier, I see that Jared Cannonier, for the most part, was a little bit puzzled and bamboozled about Imavov's striking prowess, his distance control, and his ability to land shots with accuracy, right? Whereas in his fight with Caio Borralho, he wasn't. You know, he basically just struck with him for 25 minutes. He landed some big shots. In round 2 specifically, he seemed to have hurt Borralho quite badly. And I don't know whether that was because Borralho was off balance and he slipped. He seemed to gesture to the floor that he slipped. So I don't know if he actually got hurt or it was a slip. I'd like you guys to go back and watch it, and you can tell me down below, do you think it was a slip or do you think it was, you know, a misstep, or do you think he was actually hurt? It's tough to know, but the whole point I'm trying to make is that Cannonier was way more comfortable on the feet against Borralho than he was against Imavov, right? He still struck with both of them, but a lot more with Borralho. In the Imavov fight, he was grappling a lot more, he was clinching a lot more, and he was trying to cage press and get takedowns a lot more than he did against Caio Borralho. And he just landed more brutal shots on Borralho, and you know, they went 25 minutes just basically swinging in pocket boxing distance, whereas the Imavov fight was very different. Now, I will say that both fights were very close, right? Cannonier had an argument to be level or up in both of those fights going into the last rounds, which was round 4 of the Imavov fight and round 5 of the Borralho fight. It was very close. You know, you could have said it was 2-2 in the Borralho. You could have said it was 2-1 to even Cannonier. I know a lot of people had Cannonier up 2-1 going into the 4th round against Nassourdine Imavov. It did seem like the tide were turning in that fight though. So I think that's the first thing to note, boys. Like, it seems like Imavov is just a little bit more comfortable on the feet, and he was definitely a lot harder to read, at least for Jared Cannonier. Something else I want to mention specifically about the Jared Cannonier matchups for both these fighters is the shots that Jared Cannonier was landing on Caio Borralho are almost the exact same shots that Nassourdine Imavov is very good at throwing. Now, Imavov is an elite striker, right? So he can throw almost any type of shots. But what I'm specifically speaking about is the pocket boxing mid-range to pocket range hooks that Jared Cannonier was landing on Caio Borralho. I've seen Imavov throw them very good, right? Those little step-in hooks where he turns his body, right? Like he's out at range like this, and as they crash distance, he kind of turns his whole body into the hook. It's a short hook, but he can throw multiple of them. So he throws the short hook, and as he's then stepping out of range, he throws the other hook, right? I've seen Imavov throw these type of shots where the opponent's trying to close distance, trying to grapple him, and so his counteraction to that, or his counter to that, I should say, is those short hooks that I just mentioned, right? Jared Cannonier was actually landing those exact shots on Caio Borralho in close range, right? When Caio was closing distance, when Jared was closing distance, those little short hooks were landing at will at times, and even rocking Caio Borralho at times, and I know Imavov throws them very well, you know, so that's a specific sequence I see in the boxing that Imavov may use against Caio this weekend. Now, something else I want to mention, because as I say in every video, guys, I like to tell you things that you may not have heard before and things that you probably won't hear from other predictors, other gamblers, other betting channels, whatever it may be. Now, you may hear this, but you also may not. There is another common opponent, not just Jared Cannonier, and that's actually Brendan Allen. So Imavov took on Brendan Allen, right, in MMA in the UFC, but Caio Borralho actually took on Brendan Allen in Jiu-Jitsu. Now, this was in Karate Combat. Shout out to Karate Combat. They're doing some big things. I really enjoy Karate Combat. And Brendan Allen took on Borralho in a Jiu-Jitsu match. So yes, it's a common opponent, but also, yes, it's not the same sport. But can we take anything away from it? I believe we can. I'll tell you exactly what we can take away from it. If you go back and you watch round 1, and I've already done it, so you don't need to do it, right? But I'm gonna tell you what happened. Of Imavov versus Brendan Allen. In the first 5 seconds, Brendan Allen goes to a body lock position in some type of mid-range exchange, and he's able to get a body lock takedown over Nassourdine Imavov. There's 4 minutes and 55 seconds left on the clock. And you know what happens? He stays on top for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Brendan Allen takes round 1 clean with nothing but jiu-jitsu and a body lock takedown, right? So we can see how Imavov and Brendan Allen fared in the jiu-jitsu, in the grappling, in their MMA fight, and we can definitely see how Brendan Allen fared against Borralho in their jiu-jitsu fight. And in the jiu-jitsu fight, Borralho basically dominated him. You know, he just looked a step above at all times. He looked bigger, he looked stronger. Now, this was an open weight contest, right? So I believe that Borralho weighed more than Brendan Allen. Now, I haven't gone back and done the liberty of checking the weigh-ins there, but you could see that Caio was just bigger than him, right? So maybe we can take that into account. But I mean, it was clear to me that Borralho was just a step above in the grappling. He was bigger, he was stronger, he was more slick, he was faster, he had better technique, he had better cardio in the grappling, like everything, right? He was just a step above than Brendan Allen. But if you go back and you watch the Brendan Allen-Imavov fight, it wasn't that, right? In round 1, Allen was just a step above. So that leads me to believe that just like Imavov could have some success against Borralho in the striking like Jared did, right? Borralho can have success against Imavov in the grappling like Allen did, right? I truly believe we can MMA math it to some degree and say that is the case. I'm very confident in saying that, guys. So I guess it just comes down to who's going to get their game off. Is Imavov going to be able to keep it on the feet for 25, or is Borralho going to be able to get a couple of takedowns? Before I go into that and give my final prediction analysis, the last thing I want to say, because I want to touch on as many bases as possible without making this an hour breakdown, because you know me, guys, I can go in depth on things because I like to cover all bases and give you as much knowledge, you know, as you deserve. I mean, you're going to be putting your hard-earned money on some of my predictions, so we need to touch every base. So anyway, the last thing I want to mention is that, yes, Brendan Allen dominated Imavov in round 1 with jiu-jitsu, but in round 2 and round 3, he couldn't sniff a takedown. He couldn't sniff a takedown. He actually got taken down himself, or he got reversed at one point, and Imavov was just landing bigger shots on him. And I actually would have liked to see Brendan Allen stop committing to the takedown so much because he made it so obvious, right? What happened was Brendan Allen had so much success in round 1 with grappling, he just said to himself, oh, I can just stay on top of this guy. I'm just going to grapple this guy. But what he didn't realize was that the first takedown was kind of lucky, and he just didn't have the wrestling offense to do it, and he didn't make Imavov scared of the striking. And that's something I think Borralho can do. Borralho has a good chin, he has good southpaw movement, and I think that he can make Imavov worried about the takedown early, and I think what that will do is open up Borralho's striking, so then he can make Imavov worried about the striking, which will in turn open up the takedowns, right? So I think you go back and forth, and I do think Borralho's going to get a couple of takedowns here. Now, my official prediction and analysis and the way I see this fight playing out is that it's a very tentative fight. I believe the fight goes into the later rounds. There are no odds out for an over or an under, but I'd lean to the over depending on the odds. As always, if you want my official picks and predictions, once the odds are out, you can just hit the link in the bio, everything is in there. But I would tend to think that the fight goes a little bit later. And I do tend to think that Caio is a step above Nassourdine Imavov in MMA right now. And I think the grappling is going to be the tail of the fight. And I think he'll get a couple of takedowns in key moments, and I think he could even do some real damage on the mat and or dominate if it gets there. And I don't really see Imavov dominating on the feet. Now, I do see him winning the striking battle over 25 minutes, but I still think Caio can have success in bursts, and especially if Imavov is worried about the takedown, which I do believe he will be. Like, the last thing I'm gonna say on this is Caio kind of stopped grappling recently. And you might look at that and go, oh, he's fallen in love with his striking now. But I kind of take a different approach, and I believe that he's got elite fight IQ. And so I believe that he just didn't grapple because he didn't think he needed to. You know, he knocked out Paul Craig. I mean, why are you going to grapple against Paul Craig? He beat Jared Cannonier. Maybe you should grapple against Jared Cannonier, but he felt comfortable in there. He felt comfortable. He almost knocked him out in round 5. And Jared is not easy to grapple. He's not easy to take down, right? He's kind of built a career off stuffing takedowns and landing big hammers on the feet. I think against Nassourdine Imavov, he will go back to his grappling roots. I mean, the last time he fought like a dangerous striker, I guess Jared is dangerous though, so this point doesn't really hold weight. But I will still mention it, you know, the last time he fought someone with crazy knockout power in round 1, I mean, it was Michal Oleksiejczuk, right? And Oleksiejczuk is very different from Jared Cannonier. Like, let's be real. I mean, Oleksiejczuk has 9 wins and 8 of them are first round knockouts. So it's a bit different from Jared Cannonier, right? And he took Oleksiejczuk down multiple times, right? Got his back, took him down, etc., and ended up rear naked choking him. So, you know, I feel like he's a smart guy. I feel like he'd go for some takedowns here. And that's it. My prediction is going to be Caio wins this fight. My prediction is going to be Caio wins this fight via decision. But I want to see the odds move. I want to make my decision and think about things fully before I make any bets on this fight. But it's a banger fight, can't wait for it, and that is my official prediction. The next fight of the night is another great matchup. I mean, this main event and co-main event, honestly, could easily be on the main card of any pay-per-view we've had this year. It is Benoit Saint-Denis taking on another fighting nerds contender in Mauricio Ruffy. Mauricio Ruffy coming into this fight with a record of 12 wins with only 1 loss, the same lone loss, just like his fighting nerds counterpart Caio at 17-1. But Benoit Saint-Denis coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins and 3 losses. Currently, they have Mauricio Ruffy as the -200 favorite with the underdog price tag on Benoit Saint-Denis coming back at +170. What a fight. What a fight, people. I mean, Benoit Saint-Denis is probably the most exhilarating and exciting fighter in the UFC today. It's going to be very hard for you to convince me that there's someone outside of Benoit Saint-Denis that is more fun to watch than him. I mean, let's go back and see all of his fights. I mean, they're absolute wars. They're wars, bangers. In every single fight, he's never been to a decision in the UFC. Ever. He hasn't sniffed a decision, at least not in his own weight class. You know, the first fight, I actually had a max bet against him. That was Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. That fight shouldn't have even necessarily been sanctioned upper weight class. He ended up lasting to a decision, but that was one of the worst refereeing jobs in history. You know, it now is probably the second worst after the Jason Herzog Muhammad Yahya debacle. But before that, you know, the original Muhammad Yahya debacle was Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos against Benoit Saint-Denis. Go back and watch that one if you want to cringe a little, because he took some punishment in that and it should have been stopped. But outside of that, the guy's never been to a decision, and he's never been to a decision in his own weight class, right? So he's electric, and Mauricio Ruffy's electric as well. I mean, this guy puts on great fights all the time. Crazy finishes. His highlight reel in the UFC is already pretty fucking sick. Got the crazy KO over Jamie Malarkey where he's, you know, doing scissor sweeps and all types of unique movements on the feet. And then obviously the crazy spinning wheel kick knockout against Bobby Green that we saw last fight. You know, that was great. We cashed on that as well. So I think we had Mauricio Ruffy KO in round one and it was plus money. So yeah, I was very happy about that. Look, this fight's kind of tough for me to break down. And the reason is because I've gone back and I watched the entire career of Mauricio Ruffy. Boys, I watched about 8 fights. That's a lot of fights to watch. Lucky a lot of them were like round one finishes. So, you know, it wasn't that hard to watch them. But the reason I did that is because I wanted to see tape of Mauricio Ruffy getting taken down and on his back. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find tape of Mauricio Ruffy on the ground, on his back for any extended period of time at all. So I don't really know how he's gonna fare when he gets taken down, because BSD is gonna try his best to take him down. Now, I don't actually know if he's gonna be able to do that. That's another point I'm gonna get to in a minute. But if he is, we're kind of guessing, right? And what I always say in sports betting is like, we wanna make as little or as few guesses as possible. Now we have to make guesses. I have to guess whether Borralho's gonna beat Imavov. We have to guess whether Ruffy's gonna be able to knock out Benoit Saint-Denis. Like, we have to make guesses, right? That's basically what we're doing. We're predicting, AKA guessing to some degree, right? Educated guesses. But I wanna make as few guesses as possible. Now, if I've never seen Ruffy on the ground, that's a big guess. Whether he has any ground game, whether he looks good on the ground, like, it's just too much of a guess to make. Now, it doesn't mean we can't bet him. It doesn't mean we can't predict him, because maybe, you know, the other information we have outweighs the possibility of Ruffy being terrible on the ground, right? And what I mean by that is if we think he's going to knock him out and we're very confident in that, if we're confident in his takedown defense, then we might not need to know about his ground game as much, right? Depending on the price and stuff like that. So just getting back to the fight though, that was some sports betting knowledge. I always try to, you know, give sports betting knowledge and as much wisdom as possible. But getting back to the fight, I will say that, man, Ruffy has very good takedown defense, you know, throughout his entire career, and also very good balance. You know, you even go back to that Raymond fight. Raymond Magomed in a Dana White's Contender Series. Obviously, this guy was fully gassed, right? So I don't take too much from it, but the way Ruffy was just able to use his balance to gain top position and finish the fight there, and even his balance from top position, you know, taking the back, going back to full mount, like, it shows he has good balance. But the guy was gassed, so right, if you want to throw it out, you can throw it out. But then you go back and look at his entire career, anyone who's tried to take him down or anything, like, he's got good takedown defense and good balance, you know? So, and even when he's knocked down, like, he pops back up well. I remember Manuel Souza knocked him down in round one of their fight, and, you know, he was able to pop back up straight away and just look strong, you know, look like he had a good balance in the grappling, in the clinch scenarios, up against the cage. So I kind of feel like Benoit's going to struggle to get him down here. And on the feet, I mean, there's just such a massive level difference. Like, Benoit Saint-Denis is in over his head on the feet here. He is going to take massive shots. Is he going to be able to wear them? Because he's got decent durability, right? Like, he definitely gets hurt, but he pushes through well. He's a tough motherfucker. I just don't know whether it's going to be enough against Mauricio Ruffy. You don't want to be tough against Mauricio Ruffy. You know, James Lontop was tough and he got beat within an inch of his life at times in that fight. And yeah, he survived, but I mean, that was a 165-pound catch weight fight, right? And then also he missed weight. He came in at 166.2. So I feel like if that was at 155, like it should have been, he probably would have got finished, to be honest, man. Because he took some bombs in that fight. And outside of that, Ruffy's kind of sleeping everyone. So, you know, from what I've seen with Benoit Saint-Denis rushing in against people like Dustin Poirier, from what I've seen seen with him getting caught on the feet by some of these people in the UFC, even in fights that he wins, like Gabriel Miranda, I don't really think he's gonna do well on the feet. I think he's gonna get knocked out here, guys. My official prediction is Mauricio Ruffy to knock out Benoit Saint Denis. It could be a brutal one, boys. It could be another highlight for the reel, and the hype on Benoit Saint Denis could die down after this, and then the hype on Mauricio Ruffy could go through the roof after this. This could be his coming out party if he didn't have it against King Green in his last fight. So yeah, Mauricio Ruffy via knockout is gonna be my official prediction. The only thing I'll say is, like, if this fight goes to a decision, I feel like there might be some hairy moments for Mauricio Ruffy. I just feel like his balance is too good, his takedown defense is too good, his footwork is too good, his striking is too good, his accuracy is too good, his power is too good, his momentum in MMA is too good, and I just feel like he's gonna find that chin. You know, Benoit Saint Denis to some degree is a perfect matchup for Mauricio Ruffy, just the way he rushes in with no semblance of striking defense at all. And I think Ruffy is too good to not catch someone like Benoit Saint Denis. Whether he knocks him out or not is a different thing. If he doesn't knock him out, shit could get hairy, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna catch him. Like, I'm almost 100% sure he's gonna catch him with massive shots. And most likely, that's gonna knock him out. So, you know, that's my prediction. Mauricio Ruffy via KO. Probably KO in round 1, to be honest. So in the next fight, we got Bolaji Oki taking on Mason Jones. Mason Jones coming into this fight with a record of 16 wins and 2 losses. Bolaji Oki coming into this fight with a record of 10 wins and 2 losses. Currently, they have Mason Jones a slight favorite at -140, with the underdog price tag on Bolaji Oki coming back at +120. So Mason Jones obviously came to the UFC, you know, had a decent run, ended up getting cut after his fight against Ludovic Klein, which he probably shouldn't have been cut. I mean, he had some tough matchups. You know, he had David Onama, Ludovic Klein, Mike Davis in his prime. Like, it's not an easy run of fights. So it's probably a little bit early for the UFC to cut him, but he went back out there on Cage Warriors, got multiple wins, multiple finishes as well outside of the last fight in a row. And then he was brought back in to fight Jeremy Stephens, of all people. I didn't even think Stephens was still with the UFC. And, you know, he dominated Stephens. One thing I will say is that, you know, in that fight, he showed me a lack of fight IQ. You know, I felt like he had an easy path to victory and probably an easy path to a submission victory with the grappling, but he didn't want to grapple because he wanted to get fight of the night. He spoke about that in his post-fight interview. He said, "Oh, I didn't grapple him because I wanted to get fight of the night. I wanted to get paid. I came back to the UFC and I wanted to put on a show." But then he ended up grappling in round 3 anyway, and everyone booed him, and then so he didn't even get fight of the night anyway. So it's like just very, very bad decision making. If anything, try and grapple him in round 1, finish him, get performance of the night, and, you know, leave it to the last round to swing if you really want to do that, because at least people remember that last round. But whatever, maybe he's learned from that, maybe he hasn't. Mason Jones is like a fan favorite, like a fun fighter, so I don't necessarily think he's learned at all. But outside of that, it was a dominant performance. You know, I think he showed a lot of skills in that fight, showed a chin like he always does, showed very, very good striking, also showed very good grappling. On the Bolaji Oki side, to be honest, like he's put together a solid win streak in the UFC, you know, outside of the Chris Duncan loss. You know, he's won a lot of fights in the UFC, you know, or a couple of fights at least. But I've not been impressed with him. You know, I can't lie, man. I haven't really been impressed with him. I mean, the Michael Aswell fight, you know, Aswell fought very well in that fight, pretty close fight. And the Timothy Kawamba fight, I mean, that fight was extremely close. You know, very, very close. And Timothy was coming up a weight class in that one. Obviously, Chris Duncan fight, he got tapped out. He didn't even get tapped out. He got put to sleep in a couple of minutes. And then, yeah, the Dana White's Contender Series fight, he found an early knockout. Shout out to him. But, you know, he's very athletic, very powerful. Of course, he can knock people out early. I just haven't been impressed with his overall skill set. I think he's solid. Good boxing, good cardio, decent chin, maybe. I don't really, yeah, I think decent chin. But outside of that, you know, he's just physical and strong. I don't really see like a diverse skill set. And on the other hand, you know, Mason Jones, I mean, this guy throws spinning elbows. This guy throws spinning wheel kicks. I mean, this guy throws elbows, knees, punches, leg kicks, a lot of leg kicks, heavy leg kicks, body kicks, high kicks. A much more diverse skill set on the feet for sure. He's also shown a lot better grappling and jiu-jitsu. I feel like Mason Jones is the better fighter all round. Now, the issue with Mason Jones is, just like Oki, Mason can kind of fight to close margins and slim margins as well. You know, in the Onama fight he did, he gave Stephens some chances in that fight. Obviously, Ludovic Klein fight, he kind of got shut out there. Mike Davis fight, look, that was a very close fight as well. I mean, these are good fighters, but, you know, Mason Jones, I'm pretty sure he's going to get hit in this fight, right? He's going to get clocked by some big punches because Oki's a good boxer and Mason Jones, uses his head as striking defense. You know, instead of moving it out of the way, he moves it into the punch, and that's his striking defense. So I think he's going to get clocked with some big shots here. But I also think he's going to clock Oki with some big shots. And I actually think Mason Jones has a much better durability, and he definitely has the durability advantage here against Oki. I could see Oki getting hurt badly in this fight and even knocked out. I could also see Oki getting taken down and grappled. I mean, you go back and watch that round 2 of the Timothy Kawamba versus Bolaji Oki fight, and you see Bolaji Oki put in some precarious positions by Timothy Kawamba, who is a small guy. He looked very small in that fight, and I feel like the only reason he didn't really dominate to a massive degree in the grappling in round 2 and Bolaji was able to get back to his feet with a couple of seconds left on the clock was because Timothy Kawamba was just not strong enough. You know, he wasn't big enough. If Mason Jones gets him down like Timothy did in round 2, I think Mason Jones goes to work, man. I think Mason Jones can wrap up the guillotine like Chris Duncan did, like Timothy tried to do from the front headlock position. I think Mason Jones could go full mount there. I think he can get his back rear naked, choke him. I think he can finish him. And my prediction is going to be Mason Jones here. I'm kind of confident. The only thing I'm worried about is like him losing the round or fight on big moments like he did at times against David Onama. You know, I just feel like the overall volume, the cardio, the relentless pressure, the diverse skill set, the diverse striking attacks, like, is going to win him the fight. Oki's going to be leg kicking and boxing. Mason Jones is going to be elbowing him, kneeing him, body kicking him, leg kicking him, head kicking him, and boxing him to the body and to the head. So I think on the feet, you know, and he's going to have more volume. And he's got better durability. So, like, I think on the feet, he's going to overwhelm him outside of getting caught by a big shot, as I keep on saying. And in the grappling, I think he can win as well. So that's it. My prediction is Mason Jones to win this fight. -140 are decent odds in my opinion. And I may even make a wager on that myself. I'll take a couple of days to think about it. And by the time this video is out, I'm either going to have bet on Mason Jones or I'm going to have passed on the fight completely. The next fight is Modestas Bukauskas, and he is taking on Paul Craig. Paul Craig coming into this fight, veteran of MMA, 17-9-1 record, with Modestas Bukauskas having a record of 18 wins and 6 losses. So he's kind of a veteran himself. Modestas Bukauskas, the big favorite here, -285, with the underdog price tag on Paul Craig coming back at +245. Boys, I wish I had a strong take. But I had a strong take on the last fight and the previous fight. And I had a decent take on the first fight I broke down. I just don't have a strong take on this one, guys. I mean, -285 for Modestas seems a bit crazy because Paul Craig can always pull out that jiu-jitsu move. You never know. Like, if Paul Craig gets on top, he could just dominate here. You know, how is he going to get on top? I don't really know. Modestas doesn't have great takedown defense, but he does have good get-ups. But I could see Paul Craig landing something in a transition, you know, landing a submission. On the feet, Modestas is definitely better, but it's not like he's that damaging or has that much knockout power. Now, I do think he's getting better at striking and just at MMA in general. He's another guy that, you know, came from the UK regional scene like Mason Jones, was actually booted out of the UFC and found his way back. So you have to have some respect to that to some degree because there's a reason they're back, you know. Yusuf Zalal, Mason Jones, Bukauskas, there's a reason these guys are brought back. I do think Bukauskas is better at landing his shots now, and he throws with a little bit more power, so he could land something on Paul Craig's face and knock him out. But I think Paul Craig, you know, looked okay in that Borralho fight, was never ever in danger in that Bo Nickel fight. You know, it was a close fight. So, you know, I just don't have a read on this one, boys. I don't have a read. I'm going to take Bukauskas to win the fight. I think he's going to be a bit more cleaner on the feet. I think this could be another Bo Nickel and Paul Craig fight where it's just extremely close and you don't really know who's winning the rounds. But Bukauskas just edges it on the judges' scorecard like he did in his last fight. So that's going to be my official prediction. But yeah, I definitely not super confident on that one. But yeah, Modestas Bukauskas to win via decision is my official prediction on that one. All right, now we've come to the best part of the show. It's where I give you a chance, yes, you watching, to win 1 month free membership to my Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. It's where I give out all my bets, all my predictions, my full card breakdowns, my in-depth analysis on every fight, my long shot props, my long shot parlays, all of that stuff. I give it out to you completely for free. All you need to do is leave a good comment down below and you will be automatically entered into next week's draw. So I've got everybody here who left a good comment on my last video. I've put them into the Wheel of Fortune. We're gonna spin the Wheel of Fortune now and see who it lands on. Whoever it lands on, you're gonna get a free month. So congrats to you. And I'll tell you some cool news after this. So let's just spin it and we'll see who won. All right, spinning now, lads, let's go. Lots of names as always, growing every single week. So let's see who's gonna win this week. There we are, Jack Matthews, 970. Congratulations, Jack Matthews. you have just won 1 month free to the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. All you need to do, send an email to lucrativebettingtips@hotmail.com and screenshot you leaving a comment down below saying, yes, I won, or yay, I won, or something like that. I've got your profile up on my computer right now, your YouTube profile, so I'll verify you. So don't try and cheat because you're gonna have to pass verification to get a membership. But don't worry, if you didn't win, you can still sign up. Go to sublaunch.com/lucrativemma and get all of my official picks, breakdowns, long shot prop bets, long shot parlays, absolutely everything that I am betting on MMA every single week. We just crushed it on Dana White's Contender Series last week, and we're gonna do the same again at UFC Paris. Couple of other things before I go. I got a bunch of content coming out on this channel. I also have a UFC 319 Fight Week vlog where I vlog me partying with Carlos Prates. I vlog me going to the Barstool office, meeting my guy Jack Mack. I vlogged a bunch of stuff, so you can go and watch that. It's on my YouTube channel right now, and I have a lot of cool new content coming as well, so hope you guys are gonna be tuned in for that. Outside of that, I'll see you next week. Let's make this money. Peace.